fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. We got January Joe back.
Frozen January Joe. I'm here. Yeah, inside. I'm bundled up like a mummy. It's cold out. Hey, baby, it's cold outside.
Yeah, well, it's good for you. Do you do any snow shoveling or anything like that?
We did some. It was, wind chill was like 10 to 20 below zero yesterday, and it was just enough snow on the driveways and sidewalk where you sort of said, I need to go do something with that. And then I wasn't going to do something, and I saw that the neighbors, damn them, were out there shoveling just this little bit. So I tested out my new power broom shovel thingy and got out and got the hell back in because it's cold. It's supposed to snow tonight, but it's just been cold. We got it all from Canada, I tell you.
Yeah.
You guys just hate us.
Well,
Chicagoans.
There's moments.
Outside Chicagoans.
No, there's just only one thing we don't like right now.
Yeah.
But that's
drugs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
right.
it. Yeah. Anyway,
But at least we're not from someplace dark and dangerous like Matt is.
Yeah, no, that's scary. No wonder he writes scary books.
Scary books.
He lives in a scary world, I don't know. Don't turn your back on this interview, okay?
That's right.
Serious stuff. We've got, we've got a writer who's got a new book out. Just came out on January 27th. Or that's
coming out.
It's coming out.
Learn that calendar thing there, okay? So
come on.
Go back to first grade.
No, in Canada it's 27th already, eh? Anyway, we've got a writer who's putting out a new book next week, January 27th. It's called A Reckoning of Black Cat Hollow. Matthew F. Jones, thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, Matthew, what is this book about? What do we got to be aware of here?
Well, it's a novel that takes place all in one night in upstate New York, although a lot of people seem to mistake some of my work for being down south, but I grew up in upstate New York, and that's where it takes place. It's a crime thriller, and it's a story about the main character is Jack Spinks. He's, we don't know much. We don't know anything about him. It's night. He's coming down a hollow road. He's smoking a joint, drinking a beer, and he sees a young girl pop out into the road. He stops to help her. It gets kind of hairy from there. She's obviously either screwed up or on drugs or something, but she's very scared, and she kind of takes over his truck, and they crash, and it leads to and the reason they do it is because she sees a car coming up the road, and says they're going to, she's in danger, and whoever's in that car is going to kill her or whatever. And so Jack doesn't know what to think. Once they crash, he saves her, and he doesn't know if these are real people that are after her or whether it's in her mind. Obviously, somebody is chasing her and through the woods because we're aware of that. And it takes off from there. It also is a lot about Spinks, the character. There's something heavy on his mind. We know that, and he's not exactly 100% mentally clear himself. Learn more about him as we go along. He was a Afghanistan vet, and we start. There's flashbacks. Half of the book is flashbacks to his time there with somebody who, on a mission, he fell into a well, and it's it has a lot to do with Jack trying to rescue him and his conversations with him, and we learn about Jack's wife and daughter and why he's as distraught as he. So that's kind of the basic outlines.
But Jack Spinks, who is Jack then? Like that character himself? How do you come up with a character like that? And who is he to you? Like, how do you relate to that character, or do you?
I grew up in rural upstate New York on a farm, and I knew somebody who some of what happened to Jack. I knew him way back when I was a kid. I worked with him on the farm. He kind of came back to me partly in this, what happened to him with the loss of his wife and daughter, and how Jack reacted was, that's all fiction. But I got the idea sort of from this guy. I think to me, we all live in this, to me, we all live in this gray area where, we don't, nobody is all good or all bad. What I try to do in my writing is put people, because, we all think if we're in a crisis situation of some kind, we'll do the right thing, but we don't know, and nobody knows until they're in it. And that's when I think we really find out who we are. That's what I try to do with Jack. I wanted to know, was he a good man? What was he all about? I kind of followed him on this journey, learned a lot about him, and an awful lot of things happened in those woods. So to me, I very much felt for him. I liked the guy. I thought he was a good man who was in some mental distress. I mean, he's clearly, there's no question about that. But I wanted to put him in a situation to see, what would happen, how he would react. And so that's kind of what it was.
Are you sort of juxtaposing the good bad internally with your character to the good bad that he falls into, the black hollow and all the other things?
Yeah, definitely. And I've always been drawn to characters like that because I have a law degree, and I actually I practiced law probably about long enough to pay off my debts. Well, I actually practiced, but I did a lot of mostly assigned counsel work for people that I started out with criminal work and family court work, and it was kind of interesting because these were the people that I kind of knew growing up. I would say that 80% of the people that I represented were not bad people, but they were in bad situations, and they did things out of desperation on the spur of the moment. And so that kind of character is always appealed to me in a certain way. And the idea of a black cat hollow, that could be an evil place or it could be something else. And so I kind of, that's where the reckoning part is. Jack is reckoning with the last 4 years of his life on this journey, and that's where the reckoning part is.
Is that sort of the theme of the book overall, the good-bad dichotomy, or is there something else that you have layered in here, the post-war trauma or the unknowns of life?
I view myself as a storyteller, and I don't worry about themes and that kind of thing. I think if you get to know a person, I think we all have a really interesting novel, and I've never worried about like plots and so forth. They just happen once you get to know your characters, because we all have a plot in our life. So I don't really think about what theme when the book is done and you look, you kind of know what you were trying to get at. I think a lot of what I was trying to get at was people aren't necessarily who they appear to be on the outside, and or from a distance. And we never know how who we really are until we're up against something, and you either do it or you don't do it. And I think what I like to do is to put people in situations where instead of thinking what they're going to do, they react. They have to react because they don't really have time to think. And your reactions show kind of who you are, because, either you run or you engage or you try to save somebody or you try to save yourself. You don't really have time to think. I'm very interested in who people really are. It's a very psychological book, and I think all my books are. And I don't think any of us really, there's very few people who really know anybody else. And so I'm just very intrigued by that, getting inside people's heads. And how does Jack think? What is he looking at? How does he react? So I would call it a very psychological book. And
well, sometimes they come natural, right? Sometimes they just happen without you planning them.
Yeah, I think that's it. I try to tell a good story, and I try to develop characters who are interesting, who are neither all good or all bad, but are human beings and just are in situations where they don't really have a base to fall back on. So Jack has lost everything basically in his life, and he's trying to rebuild. and then suddenly he finds himself in this really stressful situation. I mean, it's a very pulse-pounding book. I think you would agree. And it just kind of moves from scene to scene, and he has to react. And by the end of the book, I think he's grown, and that's his reckoning.
Or, when I'm in a situation like that, I just call the insurance man. That's how I react. See how much I'm covered. No. Where did writing come from for you? Where did this start? And how did you get into writing?
I'll be honest with you. I always felt when I was younger that I kind of knew inside that I just thought, that's what I was, but I didn't have any reason to believe it, because I didn't really write. I always made up things in my, I would meet somebody and I would imagine their life and what they were doing or what they might have done. I mean, the first thing I wrote that maybe gave me any confidence was I wrote a poem, and my grandfather was the sternest man I ever met. I never saw him smile. He was a minister. And he had Parkinson's, so he's in a nursing home. And so I don't know why, but I showed him. It was a poem about an old guy who goes through life, retires, and gets a gold watch. And there's a few others. It was kind of a reflection on what path he might have taken. And I just remember, because he couldn't talk, he just read it, and he looked up at me, and he gave me this big smile and nodded. It was the first time he ever smiled to me that I'd see that I could recall. So I thought, that was kind of neat. But anyway, didn't know what I wanted to do. But I decided I'd go to law school, and I did that. And I actually loved law school. I graduated magna cum laude and all that stuff, because every case you read is a story, and that's what I loved about it. But I knew I hated the idea of practicing law or being a corporate lawyer or something like that. So I started doing this assigned counsel stuff. I liked, and I met a lot of people who, were the type of people I write about. But anyway, I didn't write. I always thought I was a writer. Then I was in a football. In a football game. And I got a bad injury, and I couldn't do anything. I almost was paralyzed. But I tell people, if it hadn't been for that, I don't know that I would have been a writer, or that I would have got married to my wife. She said, well, why don't you move in with me? You can't do anything. So I said, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Take care of me and all that. And, and I could write with my right hand. And I moved into her place. It was just a small little third floor apartment. And I started writing, and I had an old army trunk and yellow pad. And that's when I started writing, and I guess I was very fortunate, because that was the first book I wrote, The Cooter Farm. And I didn't really think anything about it. I just thought, man, I'm really enjoying this. And so one day I get this thing saying that, well, you've gotten a scholarship to Squaw Valley Writers Cup. And my wife had sent part of this novel in, which I wasn't aware of. And so that's where I went and met my first agent there, and that book sold. And about a year or so later, that's how I started writing.
That's everybody has a story, right, on how they got into it. And I want to, if you don't mind, let me go back to something you mentioned in your story, because it was use of time. The one day element intrigues me. Is that for just the pace and the stress, or was the timing just really that important?
Well, I think both the stress and the timing. Again, it's really about the last 4 years of his life. All the things that happened since he was in Afghanistan, but it's all his reactions are all compressed into this one night. I mean, he meets some bad people in those woods who are after the girl, was also a very interesting character. He doesn't even know her name until later in the book. The one night thing, to me, that was important to me, because I wanted him to kind of reflect on and every time he encountered another thing in those woods, it was he would be reflecting on something that had happened earlier in Afghanistan. And we really learn who he is, and who his wife was, and who his child was, and who this girl is, each step of the night. And so I don't think that would have worked to make it over a week, say, or a year or something. Sometimes we only confront things when we're under that kind of pressure, and I think that's what he was kind of doing, and that's what I was trying to get at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but how did so then, character-wise, psychologically-wise, how do you study people's reaction to pressure in a day? How did you research that?
Well, I didn't research it. I mean, what I wanted to know was, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I think when I really get engaged with a character, I kind of get inside their head and I think like they think. So maybe that's how I would have reacted. I don't know, but before I even start a book, sometimes I put people in different situations, and I love dialogue, and so I have them talking, because I think you learn a lot about people from just the things they say and the way they say them. And so I try to get to know a little bit about the person before I start the novel. But I don't want to know too much, because that's part of the mystery of writing. I don't want it to feel contrived. I want to have it happen as if I were walking through those woods and this happened to me and this is how I would react. So I need to be inside of the person's head. And I know a lot of people, they don't write that way probably, but I could never plan anything out ahead or research anything other than the dialogue and that kind of thing. But so I don't really research. I just try to see through their eyes how they would react, and I don't know if that makes any sense, but it probably
It was a tough question, man, but and your answer is right. We write who we are.
You're not going out into the woods in a backcountry road, and when a man pulls over to pick you up, you get in the truck and drive the car off the road, do you?
Not generally, but I haven't had it happen, so we'll see.
I was going to say, that's how you do your research. Then you find it, right?
Right. That would be a good way of doing it. That's true.
Yeah, I've been doing it for years. Yeah, it works. Works great. I get into the...
If you survive the crash, right?
Yeah, well, if you don't, then it doesn't matter. Hey?
Then it doesn't matter who kills.
No pressure, but if you make it, then you got a good story. So,
right.
How was your experience in doing writing? What do you think about writing? Do you like writing? Do you like the process? Do you like publishing and all that stuff? Is it kind of good, or what would you say to a person brand new to writing?
Well, I would say, if you're a writer, you'll know you're a writer and you'll keep writing because, you're a writer. So, it's not something you recommend. Oh, I recommend you go into that for a career. And because I don't think it's not something, I've always looked at it as something that you don't choose. It chooses you. Like, I remember when my wife said, well, geez, why don't you just practice law for a while? Make some
yeah. Make some money here and I could take a break, yeah.
Exactly. And I said, look, this is, and she's been 100% supportive of me, but, I've never wanted to do anything that I didn't put myself 100% into. And writing is the only thing that I've ever felt, I think I helped some people in law, but I was never really 100% into it. And writing is the only thing that's consumed me. And I love the construction of sentences. I love putting, to me, that's what writing is the sound. It's like music and that's what creates the story. It's not so much, oh, we got to go here, we got to go there. I mean, some people write with an outline, I guess, and I or a lot of people, I guess, but I could never do that. If the words sound right and they flow, then that's going to take you to the next sentence and the next sentence and the next sentence. And so sometimes you go back and you spend, you know this, if you're a writer, you'll spend, maybe hours just trying to work out the sentences in a paragraph to make it right so they can move to the next thing. And but I love that. And I would hate writing if I had to plan it out and say, well, this is what's going to happen at the end, this is what's going to happen in the middle, And this is, to me, that's part of the adventure of writing. That's what makes it fun, is I want to find that stuff out too as I'm writing. And so that's the only way I can write is, as far as publishing, I was very fortunate. I've been, but I probably hurt myself a lot too, because I've been a total, until this book, I wrote 6 novels, and they all did, got great reviews and with great publishers. But I've been a recluse. I didn't go to conferences. I didn't meet other writers. I didn't, and part of that, I was just different back then. You think, well, why would anybody, and so I didn't do a lot of stuff I should have done. It was more that I was too nervous about it. I thought, well, why the hell does anybody want to listen to me and just read the book? And I realized how wrong that is. And when this book came out, or was coming out, I decided, well, because I hadn't had a book in a long time. And I said, well, I've never asked anybody for a blurb or anything before, and I don't know any of these guys. So I decided, well, I'm going to pick out like 8 writers that I really admire and that I like. And so I asked them, and it turned out every single one of them knew my work and was a fan of my work and was very generous. And that made me feel good. And it made me also realize how much I'd missed in not getting to know people a little bit more, writers a little bit more. Publishing is a separate thing from writing, as you know. And, if you're a writer, you always write no matter what. But I have been fortunate, because I've had 3 of them made into films, and I've done screenwriting, and so I was able to make money that way. In terms of, do I like it or not? I can't imagine doing anything else. I can't see myself doing anything else. And, hopefully you're writing a book when you die. So, but anyway, I'm sorry if I went off on that a little bit.
No, it's good. It's good information. I think that conferences and other writers, all that social stuff has some importance, but it kind of gets overblown as well. Some people do, I think, too much. But, it's good to get out there and meet a few people, do a few shows. Are you going to do any shows now for this book, or?
Yeah, I've got some, events set up. I'm doing one with Brian Panowich in Augusta coming up, and then I've got one in Boone with Mark Powell, and I've got one in Savannah. I've got a few things set up which I didn't do before. I'm kind of looking forward to it, and but I'm not, like social media stuff is all new to me, and so I'm trying to get used to that, And,
yeah, run away. I teach that stuff. Run away. So it's dying anyway. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Matthew, can I ask you a question? You're describing sort of your personality, the introvert, sort of recluse, wanting to get out. How related is that sort of that overall dark themes of a lot of your books? Is there a connection there?
Yeah, I think it probably is. You spend a lot of time by yourself, and I do enjoy my own company, but everybody has a past and everybody has things and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to get into that. But what I do think is that, you can't help it. Your personality comes out in your writing, who you are, not directly. I only write a book if I can really totally get into the main character and get into their head. And when you do that, it takes you places that it can get kind of dark. But if you're going to those places, maybe it's because that's what you. I remember Sophie's Choice. What the hell is this? But anyway, I remember I was reading something he said, and he said, everybody kept telling me, well, your work is so dark. Why do you write so dark? And he said, well, I'm thinking, I don't write dark. I write the world as I see it. And then he says, then I went back and I reread a couple of my books. And I said, yeah, I guess it's kind of dark. That's how I see the world is, and I don't think it's all dark. I think that there's always hope in my books. It's like some people have this dystopian view that everything is dark and bad. I don't have that at all. I think people go through bad things and then they get through them, and life's a struggle. That to me is more what I aim for.
William Styron.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good old internet come through, social media thing.
I'm glad you found it because
It'll drive me crazy. I gotta know the answer. I can't. Insatiable curiosity.
So you're doing this, you're going to do a little promotion and stuff like this. Are you working on another book, or do you leave that separate? Do you wait a while before you get into another writing thing?
Yeah, I've got another book in it that I'm working on a little bit, and
Romance?
Rom-com, here it comes.
It's a romance comedy, and
Musical theater.
Yeah.
no, I suspect it won't be quite. It's not. It'll be different. It'll be actually a little bit more of a. There'll be a bigger scope of characters in it, I think, and it won't be so compressed. I think my work, some of the work that I do, this one and maybe Boot Tranks and maybe a Single Shot, they're what I call kind of claustrophobic, which is what I was aiming for. I want that all enclosed within. You're seeing everything pretty much through the mind of this main character, and it's kind of claustrophobic, and I guess in a very tense way. And so this one I don't think will be quite like that. Okay, well, let's see. Do you have a social media set up, or do you have a website that we can give out to people? Yeah, I have a website, MatthewFJones.com, and then I'm now on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram.
Oh, there you go. It's a start. We'll put those up for our listeners as well, so they can find you easily. And we'll help you get on TikTok if you want to get on there.
Yeah, he sounds like a TikTok guy.
Yeah.
Do you recommend it?
No. Not really. No, not really.
Depends what you want to do.
Depends what you want.
There's a lot of book stuff on TikTok. A lot of book stuff on TikTok.
Book talk. People get up there and dance and sing, and they have their book. And
yeah. Well, maybe that's what I should do. But no, I'm probably on enough, I think, right now. But
yeah,
I've enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying meeting different people. So so it's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive to it. You just gotta separate a lot of the bad stuff and kind of make it work the best you can. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and everyone. The book is called A Reckoning Up Black Cat Hollow, and the author's been with us, Matthew F. Jones. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.